in this case, the time and consistency result would also arise in a theoretical model in which everyone is alike. If everyone is alike, the objective of the government is obvious. The government would simply maximize the same utility function that the typical person maximizes. So that's what I mean by a benign government, a government that tries its best to behave in the interest of the people. In spite of that objective function being unchanging and being the same as the objective function of the typical person in the economy, this result arises. Sometime in the future, there will be, or any time in the future, there will be this incentive or perhaps tendency for the government to be inconsistent. And it happens because of, because of the interaction between, because of the importance of future government policy for current decisions by private households and businesses.
You mentioned a while ago government policy having to be credible and forward-looking. Do you have any assessment with regard to the Philippine government policy?
Yes, it should be credible and forward-looking.
What's your assessment, sir? What's your assessment? How would you assess the policy of the present administration?
Aren't I supposed to be polite in the... All I can say is maybe I didn't do my homework before I came to the Philippines, so I have to admit I didn't know much about economic policy in the Philippines, except for its contribution to my first chart.
What do you think should...
Well, let me finish. So, I have learned a fair amount after I got here, and yesterday I gave a talk at which there were two commentators, and I learned quite a bit about economic policy in the Philippines from those two commentators. And especially what one of them mentioned didn't sound too good. I mean, it didn't sound consistent with the credibility and forward-lookingness, or I would rather say the emphasis on a consistent policy with the long run in mind. But I haven't really studied this person.
Which areas do you think should the Philippine government work?
Excuse me, I think it's probably not very productive to keep pursuing that question, given the constraints that Professor Kydland has seen under. So thank you very much. Maybe by way of trying to address that question, I would like to invite you to watch out for my next column. Unfortunately, in a rival newspaper. I will be addressing, I do intend to address implications for the Philippines on the topic of question. Yes, please. Very quickly. I can kindly introduce yourself, please.
I am Professor Emmanuel Fernando from UP College of Law and the Department of Philosophy. Unlike Dr. Herrado, I cannot claim to understand or appreciate most of your lecture, since I am not an economist myself. But as to the little I understood, may I ask this question? You stated that low income is often the result of country-specific policies that restrict a set of technologies that can be used. My question is, isn't it the case that third world countries have no choice, given the fact that they are so far behind the first world countries with respect to technologies, that technology available to them is that they have very few options left. Moreover, they have to compete with many other third world countries over the same area. And therefore, perhaps your claim that you can expect much growth to result from a policy of this sort is perhaps misguided.
I think it's too pessimistic to simply give up. I'm not saying that they should necessarily, or especially in the beginning, aim to use exactly the same policies, technologies that are used in say, the United States or Britain or Germany. Each country has a particular set of resources, they have a particular set of talents, they have a particular configuration. Argentina, as an example, it has a tremendous resource base, and I see no reason why Argentina should fall so far behind, other than, unfortunately, because of their unwise economic policies. In the beginning, presumably you wouldn't be that ambitious in what you try to do. It could even be things like, if your land is particularly fertile, but scarce in relation to the population, you might, even learning what are the best seeds to use or for that nature would fall in the category with what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, there are, I suppose this is where the possibility of conflicts comes in. The incentives for doing so will not be there until you feel that the peacefulness in the future is assured. And when that happens, and also, unfortunately, also in some countries, there is too much corruption. Whatever resources there are, the benefits fall to very few people. Those are examples of conditions that are not in place for long-run development. And I just think that something can be done about them. And many countries have shown that it can be done, and they shouldn't give up.
Well, I think the sorry.
Can I follow up?
You'll have to be very, very quick. Professor Chin is under very tight time constraints today.
For example, sir, I'm not that we should give up. But for example, the Philippines, we're often reduced to either exporting manpower or service industries or business process outsourcing, and we cannot compete, for example, in many other industries. We try to be as imaginative as we can, but our choice options are limited.
Based on what I heard today, the Philippines has a tremendous amount of resources. They also, I think of it as a resource to have an educated population. I'm sure I can see lots of resources right in front of me. You don't try necessarily to compete with the rest of the world in everything, but with the right amount of innovation and the right amount of trust that you'll get to keep the benefits from the expense today. You'll get to keep the benefits in the form of a stream of income in the future. In such an environment, I think the innovation